Welcome to Take 5. I'm Nick Park and I'm taking us through a series of messages in the books of the Old Testament. And we're looking at each of the Old Testament books and seeing how Jesus Christ is the subject of the entire Bible, Old and New Testaments. And Jesus is also the key by which we can understand the Bible. And if we don't realize fully who Jesus is, then we're always going to end up misunderstanding things in the Bible. And we've reached the book of Nehemiah. And Nehemiah, of course, was the guy who rebuilt that which was broken down. That he was a cupbearer for the king. And then he heard that things were in a bad way in Jerusalem, that the walls needed to be rebuilt. And he asked the king for permission to go and rebuild the walls, and he was given that permission. And when Nehemiah is the rebuilder of that which was broken down, I can never read that without reflecting on the fact that Jesus is the one who restores that which is broken. The Apostle Paul said that when God was putting together his kingdom, not many of us were noble or not many of us were of high position, but God uses the weak and the foolish things of this world to confound the strong and the mighty. My life, to be honest, the last 43 years of my life have been a testimony that Jesus rebuilds that which is broken. And not only was Nehemiah the rebuilder of that which was broken down, but he was also the liberator from slavery, because in Nehemiah chapter 5, we found that when he arrived in Jerusalem, he found that there was a real problem there, in that there were the rich Jews and the poor Jews. Basically, the poor Jews were so reduced economically that they were selling their children into slavery to the rich Jews. And Nehemiah confronted this. He confronted those rich Jews and he said, how can you do this? These are your brothers. And that strikes at the heart of any system of slavery. Slavery thrives whenever we can view other people as being somehow less than human. This problem with slavery was there long before Jesus Christ. The Greek philosopher Aristotle, that many people hold up as being so enlightened, he taught that there were the Greeks and then there were all the other nations, the barbarians, that were really only fit to be slaves to the Greeks. So next time somebody starts telling you how wonderful Aristotle and the Greek philosophers were, just thank God for Jesus. And, Jesus also came like Nehemiah, to make clear that we are brothers, because Jesus struck at the heart of the slavery system in the Roman Empire into which he was born, because by making everybody brothers, that in Christ is neither Jew nor Gentile, there's neither slave nor free. We become brothers. And we see this in the little book in the New Testament of Philemon, where Paul writes to this guy, Philemon, who had had a slave run away, and says, your slave is returned, but he's now come to Christ, and you've to come to Christ. So you're not to receive him back as a slave anymore, you're to receive him as a brother. And it's that principle that we are brothers together makes slavery unsustainable. Yes, it took political action and everything else, but the campaign that William Wilberforce launched against the North Atlantic slave trade, the logo that they used, perhaps one of the first ever political campaign logos, was a picture of an African slave kneeling, and it was designed by Wedgwood, the guy that think of Wedgwood pottery and all of that, but it said, am I not a man and a brother? Because Jesus, like Nehemiah, by stressing that we all are brothers in him, therefore struck a death blow at the system of slavery. It took time for it to work out, but Jesus set us free from slavery, not through politics, but by making us brothers. The other thing about Nehemiah is he was the rebuilder of that which was broken down, as Jesus is. He was the liberator from slavery, as Jesus is. He was the cleanser of the temple, because when he arrived in Jerusalem, he found that the high priest, Eliashib, was allowing Tobiah the Ammonite to conduct a business enterprise from the temple, which was causing great disrepute to the worship of God. And so Nehemiah cleansed the temple so it could become a house of prayer, which is exactly what Jesus did in Matthew chapter 21. So Jesus fulfilled to a greater degree everything that Nehemiah did. He was the rebuilder of that which was broken down, the liberator from slavery, and the cleanser of the temple. And so that's why I see Jesus on every page of the book of Nehemiah. God bless you today. Join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock, Drogheda.